Hey nerds, welcome to another episode of the Nerd Rundown Recap. I'm your host, Eric Hare, and with me tonight are some of the biggest, best, and most handsome nerds I know. First up, welcome to the show. Welcome back on the show, Darren Stemple.
The kids are not all right.
There's a specific kid that's really not all right that we're going to talk about a little bit later, but you are correct, sir. And then returning to our recap show is Morgan, a.k.a. The Last of Us, Santo.
I still didn't think of anything good.
It's fine.
I'm just going to say hello.
FYI, we've already recorded this intro once already, so welcome to...
I was sitting here thinking.
Yeah. Today we'll be recapping...
Don't overthink it, Mark.
Right? Today we'll be recapping and offering some thoughts and insights into episode 6 of HBO's series House of the Dragon. If you wouldn't mind, take a moment to hit the like and the subscribe buttons and leave a comment down below the video. It really helps the channel a great deal. And then share with your friends, tell them about it, especially if you're watching House of the Dragon. There's probably going to be lots of questions, lots of theories kicking around and things like that. So share it with them, those of you who are watching the show. So this week's episode is titled The Princess and the Queen. And oh boy, did we get a lot of the princess and the queen, both just shots of them doing stuff and then the interactions between the two of them. There's a lot that's changed. So we got our big time jump for this particular episode. But let's just hop into first impressions, overall impressions of the episode. Morg, since you're just back from a little bit of PTO, why don't you tell me what your impressions were of the episode?
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. You know, there wasn't a whole lot of action, but the thing I've been liking about the show is I don't need the action. It's the pacing, even with these time jumps, it works. They're setting it all up perfectly. We're getting everything we need to know. They're doing a fantastic job. Everybody in this episode was great. And there's some big things setting up that are happening in this episode. And I had some issues with it, but nothing bad. This has been my favorite thing to watch in a while. So yeah, very happy with it.
Stemple.
We talked about the time jumps last week and hoping that they nail it. And we also talked about wanting them to kind of give a little bit of a send off to the younger actors and actresses on the show.
Right.
They did not do that, at least the latter part. And we said the main reason they should do that is in respect for the actors and actresses, but also to help the general audience. And not 5 minutes into the show, I get a text from number one fan of the show, my mom, Denise Stemple. Why are there new actors on Game of Thrones, on the House of the Dragon?
Right.
Like, oh, it's already getting the question. So I wish they would have done that. And I like that was their first big miss of the year. But the rest, in regard to the rest of the episode, very, very well done. Again, another slower episode, I guess, because no action, but you can see the chess pieces being moved, and very, very excited to see more of these kids that are not all right.
Yeah. So I agree with both of you. This was another dynamite episode. A lot of political intrigue, a lot of like we've talked about, the chess pieces moving across the board. Continue to be impressed with how they are keeping you on the edge of your seat, really, because you don't know when things are just going to go sideways. It's still a Game of Thrones show, so you know that there's stuff coming, and so they've really done a great job of kind of continuing that theme, I suppose, if you will, and the time jump, I think, was a challenge. I think right out of the gate, it was a little bit like, hey, wait a minute, what's going on there? But I think they did an okay job. Like I said, I think it would have been nicer if they had just started off maybe somewhere with the original cast and halfway through the episode, or at least 15 minutes in the episode or 10 minutes in the episode, switched, you know, and then you would have been like, oh, okay, I
Could
get
have
it.
done cold open.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't mind them doing like a fade transition of like, you know, you see the younger and then it's transition, you know, like a slow
like they did with
and,
the Jon Snow baby to Jon Snow.
Right.
Yeah, something like that. So you clearly know, okay, this is they're grown up.
Right. So we start off with the opening scene. We get to childbirth is a big theme in this series, and I was really hoping to have Meg on the show. She's almost caught up. She's almost ready. I'm hoping she'll be on the show soon, but it would be really fantastic to have somebody who's actually given birth on a show that highlights the difficulties and the challenges that come with childbirth, especially during the time period that we're talking about. We're talking pre-modern science type stuff. Of course, this is a fantasy alternative reality anyhow, but still the level of medicine is just not quite there. So the childbirth is very, very difficult. But we get introduced to Emma D'Arcy, who is now playing Princess Rhaenyra. She is in the throes of delivering another baby, has said baby, and it's a brutal scene to watch. It's really, really tough to watch. She does a tremendous job of kind of going with that. So quick, we'll kind of talk about, we get introduced to John McMillan's Laner, who is, clearly her husband, who is, God bless him, he's as ignorant as the rest of us guys are, just totally clueless about, about stuff. She gives birth to this whole thing. He comes bouncing in, and they're he's like, was it terribly painful? And only like the way that an English person can speak. I can't even do the accent, but the way he says, was it terribly painful?
Was it terribly painful?
I just squeezed a watermelon out of a place.
Almost like saying it empathetically,
right.
Almost in an empathetic way. Yeah.
Yes. So God bless him. He was really, really great. And I already like this guy, John McMillan, so much more than I liked the younger actor that played Laenor. And we do get more of him as kind of the episode goes, but
feels more like a badass too than
So
younger one.
So the opening sequence really kind of ends with one of the handmaidens coming in and saying that the queen is demanding to see the child. I mean, this baby is not even out of her for a full minute, and this person is in there already, And so Rhaenyra does the most badass move I've ever seen in my life. She like gets up and starts walking. I mean, she's like still bleeding from this thing, and she walks up the stairs to where the queen's quarters are and stuff, and I guess where the king is, to deliver the baby to her. So Darren, at this scene kind of opens up, and you really kind of feel this tension that I don't know was necessarily there. They left us with the tension that Allison had started. She was going to start taking stuff a little more seriously, but this like punches you in the face with it. It seems like right away. So talk about like how the scene opened and the change in temperature, I guess, between these two kind of right away.
They could have hid some cuts, but it was a one shot.
Yeah.
About a 3-minute one shot scene, which really brought a lot of like reality or realness to it, and you felt you're never gonna feel the pain of birth unless you've given birth, but you felt a struggle was there,
right?
And that was really well shot by Miguel Sapochnik, who returned as the director for this episode. And he even came out in the after show and said this felt like a season premiere, like it almost felt like a season premiere of season 2, and it felt right to start off with this scene where she's given birth to her third child,
right? And
it's been 10 years. The tension has built up over 10 years, and you feel it right as the baby's born and the lady comes in. Queen wants to see it because she wants to see the color of the hair.
Right.
That sounds funny talking to Eric here, but um, it's it's preceded a little bit by them having to walk through King's Landing pretty much, and people are seeing this, and there's one
Kissing
guy
her butt.
kissing her butt. Nobody really comes to her aid.
Right.
Not even really not even Lenore.
Right.
And so that was tough. And when she when she gets in there and Viserys comes in, who now doesn't have an arm, he's looking to be at the end of his road. However, it's been 10 years. He's still around. He's still kicking.
Still
Blowing my mind.
Still as joyful, just an all-around great guy.
Exactly
like
how
he
I
just
expected Grandpa
Viserys
to
is
be.
just like he just is all around. Let me see my
Everybody
grandson.
wants him like as a grandpa.
Let me see
He's
my
the
grandson.
the chillest dude in Westeros right now. Just
So it's a lot. There's a lot of not facetiousness going on, but a lot of like fakeness, underhanded. Yeah. And so it's just at the tension in that room.
Well, Alicent's
cut it with a butter knife.
Alicent's like, oh, Rhaenyra, you shouldn't be up in your condition or whatever. And it's just like, come on. Like I liked Alicent the first 5 episodes of this. I have liked Alicent. I do not like this Alicent.
She immediately villainizes herself.
She really is.
Yeah.
She really
like it does,
which is great.
Yeah, the opening does a good job too of showing that Alicent's really the ruler at the moment. Like she's at that point where she could just be like, "Oh, the baby came out. Bring her here now. I want to see it." And the king can't even stop her. The king can't be like, "No, like she needs to rest."
Right.
She has the power now.
Yeah.
She's
come a long way in 10 years.
I was going to say they really did a great job in a very short amount of time of kind of giving you the visual impression and establishing that she has taken her father's advice to the end, like to the very to the nth degree, and she has she truly believes. And this is something that I think we'll talk about a little bit later, because there's a very important scene that takes place that I think offers everyone an off ramp, and she slaps it away. Alicent slaps it away and doesn't even have any interest in it at all. So anyhow, Viserys, like I said, what remains of him is a little bit choppy, if you would. Sorry.
Best.
Yeah. So, and then as they're about to leave, Alicent leaves them with this parting shot, her and Laenor, as this parting shot where she tells Laenor to do keep trying. You might eventually get one that looks like you. So, and it's just like, she's just so then we cut to a quick scene where you get to meet Rhaenyra's other sons, Jacaerys and Lucerys, and we see that her and Sir Harwin Strong have hooked
been
up.
smashing.
Yep. So, and his children look just like him for the most part. So we kind of move on from there once we meet the kids to the second scene, and more kind of talk about that for us. We cut to a scene of a dragon pit, and we get to see some of the other kids in there. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, now we get to see the boys all interact. So we get Viserys's kids,
right?
Viserys's kids,
Geese's,
and we get Rhaenyra's bastard children, essentially,
right?
And now down there playing, and of course Viserys's kids just all look creepy as hell. Something about that flowing hair at that age, they just children of the corn. Creepy, and you can tell that they're probably got a little bit of evil in them. That the whole
flip a coin.
These dragon keepers, do we know much about them? Because they seem to have their own language.
They're speaking Old Valyrian.
That's just Old Valyrian, because there was times where it almost looked like they had to translate. Okay, so it was just Old Valyrian.
Well, they were translating what the
Old
kids
Valyrian
said
to
from
New Valyrian.
No, they were translating English into Old Valyrian.
Old Valyrian.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the big thing is they're picking on the little guy, I mean, I won't say anything. We know what he becomes at some point if you've looked anything up. But they're picking on him. He doesn't have a dragon, which apparently that happens. Not every time your egg hatches, and I guess you get one, and that's it. So they give him a little bit of crap. They pick on him. They give him a pig, saying that's his dragon, and then we get some what
Pig
me and
with
Eric
wings.
thought were
It's got wings
pig
on
with
it.
wings. That's true.
It's got wings.
Gave it some Red Bull.
Yeah,
it could fly. Don't sue. But that's when me and Eric think there was some bad CGI. I don't know what the rest of the world thought. Darren did not care. But he goes down into that cellar walking like he just rode a horse for 30 days and straight.
Yeah, Alicent and Viserys' middle child. Well, I guess he's the youngest child.
He's the youngest.
Aemond, because their middle child is somebody else. But yeah.
They will have a fourth child.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Aemond goes traveling down there and sees a dragon and understandably gets scared and runs away.
Yeah.
You kind of feel bad for him, but I don't know. We've seen worse children in the Game of Thrones world, so pulling a pig prank isn't that bad, I guess.
Yeah, so he runs. He kind of runs back to mommy and his sister Helena, who we get to meet, and she is the middle. So the last time we saw Helena, she was
wrong with her.
No, she's perfectly fine. She just is a little.
She is Targaryen.
Yeah. Other than being completely batshit crazy, she's fine. She's a picture of health.
I say something wrong, I mean, like the way she was acting seemed very like off. Like the way she was just like so focused on that bug and counting the little eggs and.
Well, there is a theory out there that she's going to be either a warg or a green seer. Which Bran Stark was he was actually both. A warg you can
go into
animals and some humans, and a green seer you can see the future.
Right. So last time we saw her, she was a little infant. She was a little baby. And so now she's grown up to be probably about a 10 or I think at this point she's probably 10 or 11 in this time period. So Aemond complains to Helena and his mom that the boys were picking on him about they gave me a pig, blah blah blah. So Alicent goes to Viserys to complain about the boys, and she registers her complaint. She says something along the lines of to have one is is one thing, but to have three bastards basically running around is an insult to the crown. And Viserys is like, you can't judge them by a book by its cover. Like they're still Targaryens, so cool. And all this other. Because Viserys doesn't want to see he doesn't want to see what's happening. He doesn't want to see it. So yeah. Alicent,
he's actually ignorant to it
too. Yeah.
Unlike
like he's actually not
Tywin
Tywin
Lannister was more willfully ignorant. He chose not to believe that his kids were banging.
Right. Yeah. So Alicent, as after she leaves there, she leaves pretty frustrated because Viserys does not want to see it. So she's complaining to Sir Criston, who we got to see a little bit in that first scene. And he's turned into a real dick. Like he's just, he's very scorned by Rhaenyra, and then his honor and his integrity have made him bitter towards her, because he feels like she doesn't have any honor. She doesn't have any integrity. So he loathes and really hates, and I think he's still very hurt by what Rhaenyra did to him. So,
jeez, it was a one night stand.
Yeah, well,
get over it, bro. Holy cow!
So we talk about the kids are not all right. Darren, what do we walk in on? Alicent, what does Alicent walk in on?
He walks in on Aegon having a little Aegon time, and not
Aegon
just like
and all of King's Landing.
little.
Not just like in his bed, but like out the window that Tommen jumps out.
Yeah.
Very Homelander.
Very Homelander. So boys will be boys. Boys will be boys. But Aegon is not right in the head, as this kind of shows. But then Alicent is unfazed by it. She probably is like, this is just another Tuesday for my boy. But
Right.
he has a really great conversation with him about how he needs to start manning up, basically.
Right.
And because he at this point is just like, I'm gonna do what I want to do. I don't
Right.
care. Blah blah blah. She gets in his face and great line. You are the challenge.
Yeah. Yes.
So that was a powerful scene from him.
Yeah.
After a bunch of complaining.
Yeah. It was, you know, and I look at her, hang on, Morg, I'll come to you in just a second. So, watching her, you can kind of reemphasize what I said earlier about that opening sequence. She has taken what her father has given her, and it has really changed her perception of things. And you can see she is almost myopic in it's the only thing that she thinks about anymore. It's the only thing that matters to her is because she truly cannot see any other pathway forward. She can't see it. And you talked about, Darren, you talked about Otto being a little finger type character and kind of pulling the strings, and you can see he's poisoned her to this point. You know, he has really poisoned her. Whether or not he's actually right about his prediction, I don't know. But, you know, anyhow, so Morgan, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you know, the one thing with that is I kind of wish they went about that scene a little bit different. Like, I wish there was a little more build up to like her like slowly dropping like hints throughout the episode, then finally being like, "Oh my God, you're so stupid. Let me just tell you."
Right.
You know, because it just seemed really quick to go from him just not a care in the world, wanking it to the city,
right,
to in your face, you're a doctor, you gotta man up and do this, you know.
You can't be jerking off in the window because you're going to be king.
Right.
So
right, exactly. But
you probably could, but
you'll have somebody else there to do it for you. So you don't have to.
That talk is definitely going to be very important, because I feel like they were making us feel like Aegon's just kind of dumb. But I think this talk is going to, because with the way we do these time jumps, I think this talk is going to be that punch to the face he needs, and he's going to start becoming a man. That, like, he knows you're right.
You see it in the training scene later. He already starts.
Right. He's already starting.
He starts to
internalize.
You know, he starts to internalize
with a sword.
Yeah.
And I'll say I'm kind of on Allison's side here in all of this. I think she's in the right with all this, and I think they're really setting up Rhaenyra to be a bad leader. I think that's what they're setting up with this, and we'll talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
No one's a good leader here.
Yeah, right. Right.
When I say good,
yeah,
they all suck.
So we get
until we get to Bran the Broken. Yeah.
We get a kind of a brief cut scene where we see Daemon and his now wife and cousin and sister of Laenor, Lyanna, are out flying a pair of dragons. He's on Caraxes, and she is riding what may be my favorite dragon to this point of the series is Vhagar, who is just an amazing looking dragon. So they're out flying around. It turns out they're kind of hiding out on this place, at Pentos, and they're offered asylum there, basically like, hey, can we use your dragons, and can we, we'll take care of you, blah blah blah. And Laena's not really having it. Daemon is hiding. Daemon is really just hiding from all the rest of the world, and Laena wants to go home. She wants to go back to her home. That's where she wants her kids, because we now see that she's pregnant with a child, very pregnant with a child, which we'll get to a little bit later, because again, pregnancy and delivery is a big thing in this series. And they now have two other children as well, two other girls. So we get that. It's a very brief scene. There's really not a ton to talk about that, because it's really just kind of a setup scene. We'll cut back to them a little bit later, and there's not a lot that happens between them until kind of the very end of of the movie as far as, or as the episode as it kind of goes. So we do get a lot of action in this next scene, and by that I mean we get a little bit of fighting action, but it's in a training related way. But we get a lot of political action. Again, some more political action, some more kind of intrigue. So this fourth scene, then we kind of cut back to King's Landing, and the boys, both the Targaryen boys and the Rhaena's kids are all in the yard being trained by Sir Criston. And so he's going through some different things. He's teaching them some different techniques. And the Harwin chimes in and kind of criticizes a little bit on this stuff. So more kind of talk about that scene there where he's kind of nitpicking a little bit, if you will, at Sir Criston.
Yeah. This is a great scene. I mean, you got Viserys watching from above, watching the training. I mean, he's obviously invested. He's a good grandpa. Again, the best
doesn't miss a game.
The best character in all of Game of Thrones, as far as I'm considered. But watching him and
still clueless,
clueless.
Throughout this whole scene,
still clueless.
He is seeing something, and everybody else is seeing something else, but
he's watching a whole different movie.
He's watching a whole different movie than everybody else. So
exactly.
Sorry, go ahead, Mark. Yeah.
No, you're good. Kristen's doing his training, but Kristen's really focusing on, the Targaryen, the true children, the true.
Right. He favors
them and their training.
Right.
And that's when, Harwin chimes in like, hey, you need to focus on everybody.
Right.
And again, it's just that battle between the two, because it's just out in the open. Everybody knows. They know what's going on, but they just can't say it.
Is it like, I mean, with Viserys, and Darren, maybe jump in here too, with Viserys in the condition that he's in, it's almost like it's like a My Two Dads type situation. You have like Criston and Harwin, Criston is stepping in for Viserys to teach the boys how to fight, how to do that stuff. So you kind of have this like there's like two dads there that are in competition, and by that I mean not Viserys but Harwin and Sir Criston there's like a challenge there, and both of them know what the real score is, I guess, if you will. So
they know the secrets.
Yeah, everybody knows the secrets.
What's really crazy is what follows the scene so it ends in Harwin beating the bricks off of Criston Cole.
Right.
And then there's a scene where Rhaenyra is told like something happens. She was gonna go talk to Harwin, sees the scene between Lionel and Harwin arguing about the whole situation that's going on that everybody knows about except for Viserys.
Right.
And then he goes and tries to resign as Hand of the King, and Viserys won't let him, because Viserys wants him to say what he's like, just tell me, say it in plain English.
Right.
And
Alicent is there. And
Alicent is there.
That's on her face. You could see it
that's
on
what
her
I was
face.
Gonna say.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
She was waiting for him to say it.
Yep.
Well, she was waiting for him to resign, and I think that she told Criston to be the impetus, like pour gasoline on that fire, so that we can get Lionel out and replace him with somebody that they trust. Because she does this, she gets pretty much the whole small council to be part of her Green Army down the road. And so I think you could see it on her face where she was disappointed that he wouldn't accept the resignation.
I feel like she with that, I think she could get her dad back, honestly, because she could say like, look, see, we weren't lying this whole time. He was trying to
just wait one more episode.
Yeah, I was going to say he'll be I
he's
think
coming back.
He is coming back. So
things get a little heated in this episode.
They really do. They really do. I think the scene kind of wraps up with after Rhaenyra leaves the part where she overhears Lionel and Harwin having this conversation, and she goes and she meets with Laenor, who's in the square with his his new boyfriend. So the the new flame that he's got. And
Carl,
right.
so good to see you.
Yeah, right. So he's actually quite, he seems like a pretty good warrior. So he's he's good at sword fighting and stuff like that. So so the two of them are getting having this kind of fight and stuff like that. And so
you're gonna get it on.
Right. No, not in this episode. So Laenor and Rhaenyra have this conversation where she basically is, Laenor kind of says, "Hey, I want to get out to the open sea. Like I want to get back in the open sea." And she's like, "You don't understand. Like the fight is not out there," because he thinks that the fight, because there's some stuff happening in the step zones, he wants to get back out there on the water. He wants to get back on the sea. That's where he thinks he belongs. And she's like, "No," she says, "you don't understand. The fight is here, and I need you here because I need everyone for this battle." So she is seeing what's happening. She's not ignorant to it. So she knows what is happening. And she can see Alicent really, kind of linking arms with everything and trying to get everybody in the positions that she needs them in. Yet she claims that no one is on her side. Later on in the episode, she claims that no one's on her side. But I'm like, who isn't on your side in this whole entire thing? Like everybody in this whole castle is aligned underneath of you. So I don't understand what you're talking about. So we get a little bit later, we get a really quick scene between bickering Lena and Daemon again. She really wants to go back home. He is clearly not having it. He's just got nothing else. So then we come back to King's Landing and we get what I think might be the most interesting portion of the entire episode, which is this small council meeting that takes place. And so Darren, talk a little bit about how, this kind of sets up, because guess who's back in the news? The Stepstones are back in the news, which we thought we were done with, but here it is 10 years later, and we're talking about them again. So so kind of talk about how this sets up everything here.
Well, so what's really interesting is the Stepstones make a pact with Dorne and the Martells, which is the Dorne's never been conquered by the Targaryens, and they will have beef for as long as Targaryens are. And so that comes up, and then the two powers of the table start having a basically a dick measuring contest for the rest of the small council meeting.
Yeah.
Where at the end of it, Rhaenyra actually does something where she offers an olive branch to try to, like, you can see it when she's talking to Laenor. She feels a rising tide at somewhere.
Yeah.
Like she can feel it.
Yep.
So she wants to try to maybe, I don't know, play the game a little bit by offering this olive branch, maybe not knowing it's going to go anywhere and that it will be denied. Unfortunately, she starts
lactating.
She didn't get to her pump quick enough.
Right.
Some very funny stories about that in my lifetime, but it's a really strong, really strong scene that starts out about this crazy little seed that's going to get planted between the Martells and the Stepstones, and then really strong scene from Emma D'Arcy. Yeah,
she really does. She delivers a really great line to, like you said, she offers this olive branch and she tells her, we are one house. And she tries to appeal to Alicent and said, before we were friends, we were friends. Right. And then she says, my son Jacaerys will inherit the Iron Throne after me. And so she
I think it's Jacaerys.
Sorry, Jacaerys, you're right. Yep. So Jacaerys, tomato,
yeah.
It's from, that's the way they pronounce it in Jersey, I think.
Daenerys.
So she says that he'll inherit the Iron Throne after her, and then she says, I propose that we betroth your daughter Helena to to ally our houses with her son, to unite the houses and let them all rule together. And Viserys, as usual, is like, this is a great idea. Like we could put all this bickering aside.
I know, Viserys is just all happy.
He's like, there we go. Let's go.
And
Can I go take a nap?
And
No.
Allison doesn't even, and then she additionally offers Aemond the next dragon egg that Syraxis delivers, and which is a pretty big deal. That's a huge deal, and Allison doesn't even consider, like, she looks at it as a sign of weakness, and that she is it's something to exploit, and I can't help but think to myself, again, putting herself and her house before the realm, because even if you had a succession problem with a woman being there, she has a son that will inherit the Iron Throne. So, I don't, there's an option there's an off ramp here. I mentioned it earlier. Like, I felt like this is a good off ramp for everybody here. Because again, Alicent doesn't know.
Exit now.
Yeah, right. But
get out.
Because as we know from what the dagger says, Alicent doesn't have that information. Only Viserys and only Rhaenyra have that information. She doesn't understand that there's more at play here than anything else. But after the meeting, she says, the rat, or with the fox is cornered, or something like that. She refers to her as being a fox, and she's cornered because she looks at Rhaenyra. She looks at Rhaenyra, I think, negatively. And more, I don't know. What are your thoughts on how she kind of views Alicent?
Oh yeah,
so Alicent reviews Rhaenyra and stuff.
Yeah, Rhaenyra was trying, but Alicent it's too far gone for her. She doesn't want this. Her son needs to take over because she knows that most likely her kids are just going to get killed because they're technically a threat.
Right, but which doesn't make sense, because the olive branch that she offers to him is that I'm going to betroth my child to your child. So he's your other. I'm not going to kill your kids. Like,
I think that. And I think when she says that the fox is cornered, I think that's why she doesn't take it. She knows Rhaenyra has to do this because she can tell finally, like, yes, everybody's questioning your children. Everybody's doing this. Sure. You don't really have the power. And her doing that at that table, again, just really shows she's the true power now. I mean, the king loves this idea. And she goes, we'll discuss it. The king's like, all right, can I go to bed now? That's my blanket.
Right.
Right. So, like, it just solidifies that she's the true power now. And she knows she has her. She's, got her by the cojones and knows, like, no, we're not doing this. I don't need to do this because we're going to take over.
Yeah. Darren, next scene really kind of moves into Lord Strong exiles his son from King's Landing, sends him back to Harrenhal. Asks for permission from the king to return his son there. And then after that, we get a very interesting conversation, a very interesting dinner party of two, if you will. We see that the relationship between Alicent and Larys Strong, the other Strong in this trifecta, if you will, having a very much so. Like, I thought that he was the Varys, but after this episode, he is very much a little figure in this whole thing. So talk about that scene, because that, again, between the small council scene and this scene with Varys, or Larys, it's pretty interesting.
Larys really becomes a player this episode, big time. And there's actually this crazy theory out there. Go Google this theory that he is also a warg or a green seer, and that's how he's getting all this information. You see a lot of rats in these past few episodes
irradiating blood
where Laris is really starting to take, get some power, maybe because he's this rat who gets this watch Aegon spanking out the window, or he gets to watch Viserys with his train set. So, he's really starting to take power or gain power and gain the trust of the queen, and she's really going to use him moving forward. And they talk about how if Otto was there, he would be on her side, and how that would at least help her feel like she's not totally alone. And then
makes no sense to me. Like, she's not alone. Like,
yeah.
I mean, other than Viserys not listening to her, because she just is, Viserys is he just wants everybody to get along. Like, he just wants everybody to get along.
Really does.
But other
this
than
is why
that,
she will fill the small council, though, moving forward with people that that she controls.
Right.
So
yeah,
he kind of becomes like the master of whispers in this story.
Laris,
Laris.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so then he goes and recruits some criminals.
Yep.
to head over to Harrenhal, which I love how much Harrenhal we're getting in this show. It's the largest castle in all of Westeros, but it got burned down by Aegon the Conqueror as he was conquering Westeros. And there's they think it's haunted and that it's cursed. And so it's really crazy that that's where the Strong family lives, and they go back there and
it costs them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So we get a lot of activity towards the end of the show. Really, these last 2 or 3 scenes, we get a ton of activity. So we cut back to Daemon and Lena, and Lena is in childbirth. So we begin the episode really with childbirth, and we end with childbirth. And unfortunately, this delivery goes very much the same way as Lady Emma's did at the very beginning of the series. The delivery is the child is most likely breech or something like that, and they can't get the baby turned. And so Daemon has to make the same decision that Viserys had to make in the first episode, which is, do I kill my wife? Yeah. Do I kill my wife to save the child, or, what do I do? And Lena is like, I'm going to pick door number 3 because I don't want anything to do with that, which I don't know.
No, it was an option.
Yeah, because one of the things that she did say earlier was that she didn't want to die. She wanted to die like a dragon rider, a dragon rider's death. And so she kind of drags herself outside while everybody's discussing her fate. She drags herself outside and crawls, basically up to what I had said was earlier was my favorite dragon up to this point. And she says, Dracarys, she says to Vigor, she says Dracarys, and and you can see the dragon is like, what?
No,
I can't do that. You're my people. And she says it again, and you can see the dragon is really, really. We go from like what I consider to be one of the worst CGI scenes to probably one of the best CGI scenes, because you can really see on this dragon. At least I felt like you could see the conflict in the dragon, that you're asking me to do something I don't want to do, and but then they kind of have this moment, and Lena, gosh bless her heart, she just looks at the dragon like, please don't take this from me. Like don't deny me this. And so she gets lit up, and she says Dracarys, and the dragon lights her up, and of course, Daemon comes running out right just a few seconds before and gets to see her, get kind of smoked by the dragon and all that. So, but it's how she wanted to go. I mean, if she's going to be in that situation, that's how she's going to do it. So pretty much that's the end of it for Lena and Damon in this episode. There's really not a ton of other stuff that's which sets up again a job opening, if you will, for some stuff to happen. I think probably later on. Harwin says goodbye to his boys. We cut to a scene back to King's Landing where Harwin is saying goodbye to his boys, and Jacaerys, after Harwin leaves, JJ, he looks at his mom and says, "Am I a bastard? Am I Harwin's bastard?" And you could see he clearly loves the guy. He does care for the guy and everything. So, and Rhaena responds, I think, appropriately. And she says, "No, you're a Targaryen," because it really doesn't matter.
And that's all that matters.
That's all that matters.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. And I think that's the one of the strongest lines in this whole season.
Yep.
That was
it was
power.
huge. It was huge. And that's the thing that Alicent doesn't know. She doesn't know that that's all that matters. It doesn't matter who the dad is. It doesn't matter any of the other stuff. Yes, having be a full blood, I guess, or whatever, have that blood, but he is a Targaryen at the end of the day. So Morgan, Laenor and Rhaena, Laenor and Rhaenyra then have this conversation about, she's like, I think it's time to pull up stakes. And so how does that conversation go?
Yeah, she does a good call back to when Laenor was drunk doing his I'm gonna leave, I need a fight, and she's like, no, the storm's coming, and he says a good sailor gets out before the storm comes. Right. So she does a good call back to that, and she's like, we're leaving, we're going to Dragonstone, and he's like, yeah, well, what about the storm? And she says, well, a good sailor leaves before the storm hits, essentially.
Yeah.
So she's hightailing it out. I think she can sense she's starting to lose some power in this situation. So I think she's like, in her mind, thinks it's a good idea to get out of there. I think this is her next biggest mistake she could possibly make, because now she is leaving King's Landing to Alicent. Like, there's nothing there to stop her now. Nothing there to fight her off, to remind her dad, no, don't let her do this. This is it. And this is where I think we really start to see the downfall, or maybe the uprise of that Aegon and everybody there. And we're coming. It's coming.
Yeah.
We're gonna get that
fracture. It's the fracture.
Yeah. So Darren, there's kind of three.
Oh, and she tells Laenor he can bring his boyfriend.
Yes. Yeah, he does.
Don't forget that.
But she's,
but again, to show she's
but
like,
it is important.
We had a deal.
I don't think it's that. The way she talks about it is, we're gonna need every sword, and she's not wrong. She says, we're gonna need every sword we can muster, and if that's your guy, then bring that guy, because we're gonna need I'm gonna need everybody. I'm gonna need it all hands on deck. So
keep an eye on that guy, though.
Okay.
Just say that.
Yep.
Keep an eye on Carl.
So, Carl,
get in the house.
So we get two scenes, kind of very quick scenes, if you will. Darren, walk us through the Harrenhal scene, and then we get Rhaenyra again. So walk us through those real quick.
Well, I mean, this last piece of the episode is really, it's a voiceover from Larys Strong as, and it's a scene or a monologue really that's so reminiscent of Littlefinger's Chaos is a Ladder.
Yep.
Monologue.
Yeah.
Just like, ooh, give me chills.
Yeah.
Watching it, because not only is it Larys giving this monologue, it's a monologue over Arwen and Lionel Strong getting burned alive in Harrenhal from the criminals that Larys hired.
Yep.
And he cut their tongues out to make sure they don't ever talk about it.
Yep.
And then he comes back, and it's just Alicent is actually kind of mortified by what what Laris is telling her.
Right.
And it's actually kind of a flip for Alicent in this episode, because she's been like this strong presence every single time, knowing kind of what the next step at least should be. But she did not expect this. And so it'll be interesting to see how she does she learn from this? Does she use this? What happens off of this moving forward with her?
She finally has blood on her hands, if you
And
will.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
whether
That's
she
what I think. Yeah, it gives her the taste. And now, now she's realizing the power she has.
Yeah.
Like, she's horrified, but at the same time, she's kind of like the, well, I got this guy.
Right.
He's got me.
And then we finally see Rhaenyra arrived at Dragonstone with her clan, and so she'll be setting up shop there. And so really kind of all the pieces are starting to fall into place, and I think the last few episodes here are going to be quite interesting. We got one more time shift coming here pretty soon, and
but not a big one, right?
Not too big.
I think it's going to be enough to just make Aegon like an adult.
Yeah. A little bit older.
Or at least in his like
late teens,
like his next
late
final
teens,
his final form.
Which, thank God, because that kid's hair just drives me crazy. It's just
he's so ugly.
Yeah.
That's David Tennant's son.
Is it really? Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
Which is funny because Matt Smith is on the show too.
Not David Targaryen.
That's funny.
All
right, so let's wrap up the episode. Morgan, final thoughts?
I think Alicent has been in the right the whole time. I think she's honestly trying to do what is the right thing, where she knows the second she takes that chair, it's going to cause a rift everywhere, and it's going to be much more of a problem than it should be. We should have my kid, the true firstborn. I think she's trying to do the right thing, but I think this whole dealing with Littlefinger just screwed her. I think now she's going into official bad guy territory after this.
Darren?
Yeah, this is like when the San Andreas fault cracks, and the literal fracture of the realm happens in this episode, where it's just like a little crumble at the end of a movie that you see like something shake. This is an actual like crack through the middle of the realm, and you might have nailed it there, Morg, when you said this is a big mistake for Rhaenyra. They always talk about when a king leaves King's Landing, it's not good for them.
Right.
So is this not good for Rhaenyra? Stay tuned on that. This is like
next time.
You see the crack open up in the realm, and now it's just gonna. They have no choice but to have this show just be bonkers the rest of the way. Really.
Yeah.
Bonkers.
Yeah, for sure. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for your commentary, your insights on the show. This is really been great, and this show has been just dynamite week after week. It's been really good, and I have a feeling we are moving into some pretty exciting territory moving forward. So I think I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to more of these recaps with you gentlemen, and digging into these episodes a lot more. So thanks everyone for joining us this week on the Nerd Rundown recaps. We will see you all next week for episode 7. We're almost to the end here. Getting close. Close.
So 7 a hot D.
Yeah. Hot D. All right.
More hot D.
More hot D.
Tune
Everyone
in
loves
next week for our recap of episode 7 of Hot D.
hot D. Everyone loves hot D. All right. Gentlemen, thank you all. We will see you next week. See ya. Bye.
I'm a Targaryen.
This is.
I'm a Targaryen.
I'm a Targaryen.
All that matters.
All that matters.